Welcome to episode 4 of the Hike or Die Outdoor Adventure Podcast. I'm here with good friend and Jeep driving freak, Craic, as always. I can't wait to get into this one, Craic. There's a whole bunch of stuff coming up. Can you just play that damn tune? Let's do it. G'day guys, how you doing? Thank you for joining us again on another podcast. We've made it to number 4. That's our record, so congratulations to us.
Sure is, yes.
I was thinking earlier this week, actually, Craic, I thought there has to be some kind of statistics that show some kind of a drop-off where people kind of give up on podcasts.
Yeah?
Yeah, there has to be. There's got to be. I guarantee you there is. I reckon it's about number 3.
Number 3.
I reckon people do 3 and then think, I don't think I want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Or they get lazy or whatever. But it's the opposite. It's the opposite for us because we are so close to hitting 1,000 downloads. That's not funny. I'm really happy with that. And I've got to thank everyone for their support. That of course doesn't include the people watching on YouTube. Hi to you guys. We're recording now at the moment. But you know, those numbers probably don't mean a lot to people with bigger podcasts, but the fact that we've only punched out 3 of these and we're not actively pushing it, I'm really impressed with that. And thanks for you guys for getting stuck in and having a listen. There's been some good feedback. And just to kind of frame this podcast now, we recorded those first 3 and then put them out in fairly quick succession. But what we're aiming to do from this point forward is launch the podcast much closer to when we actually record it. So, for example, it's Saturday night and Craic and I are having, it's party central here. We've got chips, drinks.
Yeah.
And so while everyone else is partying, we're recording this for you. But my point is that this will probably drop within sort of 3 or 4 days. So the news is going to be more current. The stuff that we're talking about is going to be more current from when we record it to when you hear it. And for that reason, I think it's just going to be just much better information for you guys. Yeah?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
a good plan.
A lot has happened, Craic. I just don't know where to start. How are you anyway? Jeez, what's going on?
Mate, I'm good. I'm real good, thanks. Doing really well. Feeling happy to be doing this again. Haven't had much of a chance to get away. Work's been holding me back at the moment, but yeah, got the finishing touches on a plan to get away on a little hike in the next fortnight.
Oh yeah, cool.
Definitely.
Do we have details, or is this a secret?
It's just a solo. Back to Barney again. Just get
cool.
back to it.
You've got an affinity. Is that the way?
Yeah.
One would say it, with that mountain.
Yeah. Yeah, I reckon.
Cool.
Reckon I'll definitely get there in the next couple of weeks.
How many nights?
At least one. At least one. Let's say that.
Yeah.
It's hard to get away for more than one at the moment.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, for sure. No, it's a good spot down there. It's you get yourself pretty secluded pretty quickly.
Yeah, man, it's great.
Well, I have a whole bunch to tell you about my recent outdoor adventure, but I don't want to go into that just yet because I just won't be able to stop.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's coming up. I will go into that for sure. I've got a bunch of housekeeping stuff to go through here. Things are moving along just nicely, and this I guess I'll start by saying this. Craic and I have had sponsors over the years. They've stuck around. They've supplied us with gear and we test it, and usually what happens it usually happens in that order. Someone will send us something and we'll test it, and we'll kind of fall in love with it and end up forming a pretty good relationship with that company. What that's led us to is some of the clothing we wear, the sunglasses we wear, and a few bits and pieces of gear. And this podcast was obviously it's a nice way to kind of give back to those people that are supporting us, as we do in our shout outs. But we're not going to take up a lot of your time every time you listen to a podcast, but we are going to kind of let you know who's supporting us and who we are supporting. At the same time, that does open up opportunities for you guys. People are pretty keen to kind of reach out and get to know our audience as well. So there's a few cool things coming up. We'll get to those in a second too. So I want to start by saying that we are now officially living lab testers.
Yeah.
Get your head around that for a second. For Bluey Merino. They are a fully Australian owned and operated merino active and outdoor wear clothing company. And we've been wearing their garments. I'm talking everything from socks through to kind of neck gaiters, shirts, and then the leggings. Oh, what else have we got? Oh, some headgear, like all sorts of stuff. It's awesome. I've absolutely thrashed it. I know you have too.
Yeah.
We just flogged that stuff, and it stands up to everything we can give it, and that's why that's why I'm happy to sort of recommend it, and that's why it's great to kind of be building a relationship with these guys. I got a couple of articles in the pipeline for when they launch their new website. But what is really exciting today is the story I'm going to get to. I have to kind of tell you a bit about that to link in with this.
Mm-hmm.
I constantly come up against this situation. Let's call it a situation. When I'm at work, usually it's usually workmates, to be honest, because they're the people you end up spending the most time with.
Mm-hmm.
People end up finding out that I'm into hiking and adventure and all this stuff. And all the time I get girls, women saying, "Oh, wow, I love the outdoors. I'd love to get into the outdoors." And I say, "Oh, yeah, what you should. Why don't you?" And I always get the same answers no matter how old they are. Anything about the demographic, I get very, very similar responses, and they're usually to do with I don't have anybody to take me. My partner isn't interested. I wouldn't know where to go. I don't feel safe in the outdoors by myself. I wouldn't know what gear to take.
Mm-hmm.
You could say that about most guys as well, right? I work with guys who would have exactly the same responses.
Yeah.
But I think there's this, I don't know, there's something different about it. Why is every single girl I talk to giving me the same response? And the more and more I heard that, I kind of thought that it was almost like a duty, in a sense, to give back and put my hand up and say, look, if you guys want to come out, I will take you on an organised hike, and I'll take care of everything and show you guys around and just give you a taste for it. Because my hope is that I can plant some seed that will kind of grow, and then those guys might start doing shorter hikes by themselves and develop their own outdoor skills, and then that can kind of just magnify.
Yep.
Not that I don't want to take them on a hike again, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. You know, that kind of
plant that
theory,
seed,
right?
see what happens.
Yeah, let them drag other people in and let that manifest and
Sure.
and go on. So I was talking to, and this is how that story loops back. I was talking to Bluey Merino, and I said, hey, something cool I've got coming up is I'm taking a group of girls hiking that have never been on a serious hike before. And they just said, oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, there needs to be more of that. And they sent me an email during the week and said, look, on the podcast, we want to give some of the female listeners the opportunity to win a piece of Bluey Merino clothing. And I thought that was a fantastic idea. Very generous of them. So what they're offering is it's called let me get this right, Outdoor 160 short sleeve t-shirt. It's a beautiful piece of merino wool clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't say that. I don't actually wear the women's version, but
It's one you've been wearing for weeks.
Yeah. I've been testing it. You know, it fits my slim stature. I wear the same version, the same one in the male version, and I've had it for must be a couple of years now since we've had them, right?
Yeah.
And I love it, absolutely love it. Sometimes I just wear it to work as a t-shirt in winter because it's so comfortable. I've worn it running, any kind of training, and obviously hiking, canoeing. This trip that I took the girls on was kind of like a little bit of canyoning down a gorge. And so I was getting wet, dry, and it was absolutely perfect for that, as you'd know.
Yeah.
From the one hike that sticks out in my mind, and this is something that we'll spend a whole podcast on one day, was when we hiked out to the Stinson Plain Wreck.
Yep.
And there was it was hot, muggy, steamy kind of weather, and then we were getting rained on. And there was one point there where I just said, you know what? Instead of steaming in this rain jacket, I'd rather just wear my merino top and get saturated, and my temperature will kind of mediate itself better.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 100% true. As soon as I got that rain jacket off and let myself get rained on, then the activity kind of warmed me up again. Anyway, it's fantastic gear. So, Craig, would you like to tell the listeners, sorry guys, but this is for the girls only, how they can win a fantastic Bluey Merino t-shirt?
Yeah, well, it's there on the website. So you go to blueymerino.com, BLUEY merino.com, and join the Bluey Mates. Yes.
Yeah, Bluey Mates is a little thing they've got going on. If you scroll down, not very far, on the right-hand side, there's a blue box and it says Bluey Mates. It's a program where they will send you special deals and early releases. So it's not just a newsletter, but they actually give you the opportunity to get into stuff early, which is pretty cool. As living lab testers, Craig and I will also be up to date with new stuff coming out. And I had this very subtle hint in an email from the guys this week, saying that there may or may not be a significant range of new ultra soft merino base layers and urban knitwear about to be released. So they're going to let us know more about that.
Hopefully they come in women's sizes for you too, mate.
I hope they do. I like it fitting. Yeah. Yeah, so do what Craig said. Jump on to blueymerino.com. Go down and sign up as a Bluey Mate. Now, that will automatically put you into the mix to be picked out for one of these shirts. Okay. On the next podcast, we will announce the winner of that competition. I'm really excited about it for so many reasons. but the main one being that is a awesome piece of kit, and to be able to kind of have somebody else have the opportunity to try some of that. It's good. It's good.
Oh, cool.
Moving right along. I feel like we kind of left... The thing with that last podcast where we recorded it on location, I feel like we kind of left that story unfinished because we did the podcast on the second evening and then the next day we hiked out. So they didn't actually find out what happened. Obviously, we didn't die.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to launch your drone properly that next morning.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember we were talking about it and said, we'll let you know how we go.
Yeah, right.
And it was very successful. I was very impressed with you, Craic.
Well, when you asked me what I've been doing, I wasn't sure if we were going to mention the drone today, but yes, certainly have been flying at every chance I can get.
You still got all your fingers?
Still got all my fingers.
Like have you kids? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. No injuries so far.
Just checking.
Yeah, getting the knack for it, man. It's really good.
Yeah, I was most impressed. There was a lot of pressure on Craic on that flight because it wasn't hooking up with all the satellites. Now, to anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, obviously the GPS functions, the fact that it can hook up with satellites means it gets a lot more stability in it, and it takes a lot of pressure off the drone pilot. So long story short, Craic could only hook up with probably less than half of what he wanted to. So there was a lot of manual flying involved. I remember that particular moment when you took your finger off the throttle and it actually dropped a meter in the air.
Yeah.
My heart nearly stopped. Just so you know, he took off over a river because there was nowhere else to take off. So yeah, it was pretty full on. And then there was nowhere to land. Tell us about the landing, Craic.
I thought it was going to be expensive.
It was an expensive maiden voyage.
Yeah. It was all right, but we did have to catch it because it kind of, there's nowhere to land where we were. And that was probably my biggest fear because I'd only just got this new size small drone that, you just got to grab it out of the air. And it went all right though.
I remember you saying to me the afternoon before, it's okay because I've watched about 15 videos about this.
I've got a feeling I might have to do it.
Yeah. I'm so glad you did though. I don't know how we would have got that thing. Some kind of a stick or something.
Yeah.
That was good. I've had a look at the footage and I've actually thrown it together.
Have you?
Yeah, I have. Which kind of puts a bit of pressure on me right now because I feel like I need to knock that out over the next couple of days and try and get it in the mix for when this podcast launches. But yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we still got a bit of work to do on the exposure and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
With the actual camera settings, but the flight, there's some nice pieces in there, man.
Yeah.
It gives a really good, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. It gives a really good interpretation of where we are compared to our photographs.
Yeah, it's a different aspect. It's a different perspective on where we are, which is always good. But yeah, I'm going to get these little polarized filters for the front for the lens, and I believe all that stuff makes a bit of a difference. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Oh, it's good. It's excellent. Yeah, you'll love it. I'll show it to you later. Give you a sneak preview before these guys.
Awesome.
Okay. What else we got? Oh yeah, that's where I was going with that. So we did make it out alive. Part of the reason we made it out alive, in my humble opinion, was the Topo Maps Plus software. Now, I can't remember at what point we mentioned that, whether it was I'm pretty sure it was on an earlier podcast. I don't think it was on that one, but that was the first big test for me.
Yeah.
That was an area that I knew we would not get phone reception, which meant that you just lose things like Google Maps.
Yeah.
I've got as you have as well, a very expensive, very cool Garmin GPS unit. It's pretty big, and anywhere I can eliminate carrying two things that do the same thing, I will. And so I took a chance and didn't take that GPS. I know you had your watch as a backup, which was fantastic. But that thing worked. The app worked. Even when I didn't have phone reception, I had connectivity with the satellites, and I could see our point on the map.
Yep.
I used it again on this hike with the girls. The night before, I actually got into the maps and put a marker where I intended on parking one of the cars, and then on where I intended on exiting this gorge system and parking the other car.
Yeah.
And a few other points along the way, like that junction, this hike well, that junction where you have to turn at the river.
Yeah, sure.
I just dropped that in because I could see it on the maps and zoom in. I could see it. So I just thought I'd drop it in there, and then throughout the hike I would check it out and see how progress was going. And I did that a couple of times. There's actually this really... It looks like a terrible photo of me because I'm sitting in this absolutely beautiful environment and I'm sitting there looking at my phone.
Right. Yeah, that's
I almost don't want to ever let anyone see that because I feel... Because out of context, people would think that I was on Facebook or something. But I was legitimately flicking through, just checking our progress. And again, it performed beyond my expectations. And just to put some clarity around that, Stephen, who put that software together, that app together, is in the US. And he's obviously done a whole bunch of testing over there, and he's confident that it's fine. But he'd never had anyone on this side of the world that was testing this unit for him, or rather testing the app and the maps and everything.
Yeah, right.
So I was a bit skeptical of how it would perform here and what trails and maps that it would have access to.
Yeah, yeah.
But as you were saying earlier tonight when we were chatting, like, it's pretty cool. Like,
it's got it all. You can't understate how important it is to have your location on a map. Just to have that information is critical when you're, potentially could get lost. So to be able to see exactly where you are at a given point just takes a whole lot of the pressure away for navigation. So, yeah.
It especially with, for me also, it's about progress. So where am I in relation to where we are trying to get within a certain time frame?
Oh,
and
yeah, of course.
That approaching storm or whatever it is.
That's right.
And that's really cool. Do we need to step it up a notch, or are we never going to reach that by this afternoon? So let's start looking for a makeshift camp instead of plowing on into the evening. It really puts a perspective on things.
No, very, very good piece of gear to be able to have that with you, and for something that's just attaches to your phone.
Yeah, it's crazy because so many of my photography apps now, like we run the GoPro through the phones. My new Sony camera runs through my phone.
My drone runs through the phone.
The drone runs through, like everything's running through the phone these days. And I'm just not going to carry that GPS anymore because my phone's a third of the size, if not less. So going to that, I had some more discussions with the guys from Topo Maps, and basically just said, look, we're on board, we're happy, we love it, it's good. And he said, hey, look, let's give your listeners an opportunity to get in on this as well. So that leads us to, do you have that email?
Yep. Yes, so the word on the street is that if you email Steve on Stephen with a PH at glacierpeakstudios.com, he'll apply a 20% discount for the upgrade of the app.
Yeah, because I believe you can just download the free version.
Yeah, have a look
check
at
it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think once you've done that, you can email Stephen and he'll apply that 20% discount. Now, if you are right in the middle of a workout now or hiking or commuting or whatever, and you can't remember that email address, please just hit us up with a direct message on Instagram or Facebook, and I'll shoot it right back to you. But I will just read it once more time. Once more time? Yeah. Once more time from the top.
Once more from the top. Yes, Stephen, Stephen, at glacierpeakstudios.com. Send him an email.
Mention that you heard about it on the Hike or Die podcast.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as you're ready to upgrade, give him an email.
Do it. Yeah, it's worth checking out. I highly recommend it. If you know anything about us, and I guess we've got to take into consideration that some of you people listening to the podcast may not have been around for the last 4 or 5 years watching our reviews, following us on Facebook and Instagram. So I kind of take that for granted when I'm talking, that people know the history. But as I said before, I will not endorse a piece of equipment or anything, a piece of software that, firstly, we haven't tested thoroughly, and secondly, that I don't believe in or that I don't think is a good product. I just won't. If something pops up and somebody says, hey, if you mention the name of my product on your podcast, I will give you $1 million, then I will say to you, hey, I've just got to mention this so I can get $1 million. Okay. But I'm still not going to say it's a fantastic product that I use every day in my skincare regime.
No, it's exciting though to have some stuff we've been using really come through and work well, and be able to tell you guys about it. That's
exciting
cool.
to be able to pass it on too.
Yeah.
So thanks again to Stephen, and thanks for an awesome product, mate, because it is proving itself time and time again. So that also makes Topo Maps one of our official sponsors of the podcast now, just to be clear. And the list keeps on going. I'm sorry we're taking up a lot of time with this, guys, but I just think it's important to let you guys know where we come from. A lot of people ask us about the gear that we use through YouTube. What am I trying to say? YouTube, Instagram. I get questions a lot. So the gear that we use is the stuff we're recommending, and they're the companies that we've become affiliated with.
Yep.
Rios sunglasses. They make floating sunglasses. I don't think I've got them with me because it's 10 o'clock at night. I usually carry them around. I was going to show the people on YouTube. Doesn't matter. They make floating sunglasses. I remember stumbling across their website years ago and thinking, what does that even mean? I didn't even know it was a thing. And so I emailed the guys and said, hey, can we find out a bit more about this? Because we're always doing a lot of canoeing and stuff. If you flick your sunnies off your hat and they're in the water, they're gone. So, yeah, he ended up sending us some pairs to test, and I remember just falling in love with those because they were so light. And that's obviously what makes them float, but I guess there's this misconception that with sunglasses, at least in the good old days, if you get a nice heavy pair of sunglasses, they're probably better quality. At least that's what I used to think.
Sure.
I'm sure it's still the case. But I guess when I put these ones on, I thought, wow, these are so light, they must be a bit shit.
Rubbish.
So it took me a little while to get used to how light they were on my face, but pretty quickly that became one of my absolute favourite features.
Best thing.
Yeah, is how light they are. And I was doing some work in my yard today, and I had them on all day. I wear them on my commute. I wear them at work all the time. Just I've got several pairs of them now, and I just switch between them depending on where we're going. And it was funny going back to this the hike that I promise we will get to. There's this one particular part where we have to dive into the water, into this gorge. And I remember thinking, well, I don't want to dive in and all my stuff to fly everywhere. So I actually took the sunglasses off my head, and there was some other people down the end of the gorge watching. And I took my sunnies off and I just flicked them about 5 meters ahead of me into the water. And I remember looking at their faces thinking, what is this idiot doing? Does he think he's going to be able to swim to the bottom and get him? Just magically find him exactly where he threw them? But sure enough, they popped up and just floated off to the side. And then, I jumped in, swam over, and one of these people that we didn't know actually grabbed him and put him on a rock and said, "Oh, your sunnies are just over there. They're actually pretty cool."
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, they are." But I reckon I would have lost a few pairs if I didn't have them.
Yeah.
Anyway, just so the reason I mentioned that again, it's a great piece of gear. We use them all the time. I can highly recommend them, and they're an official sponsor of the podcast. So I'd like to thank that team as well.
Sweet.
Last but not least, I was testing a new, actually, look up, I don't know which way to point, up here behind me. Oh, I had it right the first time. There is a new backpack. It's a dry bag from Craic, Craic.com. If you've never heard of them, check them out. We've been using their backpacks, some of their day packs, for at least a couple of years. How long have you had yours?
Yeah, 18 months or so.
Yeah, I've probably had mine 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And we went, well, I didn't even know you got yours. I went to a store. I bought it. I picked it out. Yeah. I bought it.
Yeah.
I've been wearing it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Craig grabbed his backpack and was wearing it. And it wasn't until just recently that we started talking to the guys through Instagram, the guys at Craic. And we're right in the midst of becoming ambassadors for those guys. Yeah, and cool. Yeah, one of the, apart from the pack that I still use and love, it's just a little 18-litre day pack, but it's real slim in the back.
That's that camo one?
Yeah.
That I first saw you had.
Yeah, that's right.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's so slim that, because I do a lot of archery as well, and when I'm down the range or wherever I am, I can wear that thing the whole time and I can still go to full draw, and I just forget it's there because it's actually narrower than my back and it's so streamlined.
Yeah.
But I used that, it's called the Trident, and it's a dry bag. It's almost like a giant dry bag with straps.
Yeah.
And I gave that its maiden voyage on, weekend before last. And my camera is still in one piece and doesn't have water dripping out of it. So I'm absolutely stoked. It's a good piece of kit. They don't make, they certainly put a lot of time into the quality of the zippers, the clasps, the materials and everything. So thanks for those guys too. We're going to be working a lot more closely with them. Right. Thanks for your patience. That's where we're at. I guess the point I'm making is things are starting to cook with this podcast, and me as well, because it's getting pretty damn hot in here. And it's because of you guys supporting us that we're able to kind of present those opportunities to you. Now, shout outs?
Righto.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
I want to kind of mix the shout outs with some of the feedback we've been getting. We've been getting so many people from all different places, and it's predominantly positive. People were super happy with that podcast that we did out in the rainforest, episode 3.
Yeah, right.
And someone just this week said, "Oh, are you recording out in the bush again this weekend?" And I said, "No, unfortunately, it will be something that we always do, but it's not as easy as just ducking in the studio and getting this done, especially because a lot of time we need laptops to be able to convey information to you guys." So anyway, feedback. What sort of feedback have you been getting, Craig?
Me.
I know you don't have the access that I've got to all the kind of the back end of the social media stuff, but just in general.
Yeah, no, I've been really impressed with some of the comments along the lines of, just potential things we can put on the podcast. And yeah, just some of the feedback on the images we've been putting up and stuff like that's been real good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's certainly had a lot more interest than I anticipated. You just never know, but hey, we're giving it a shot.
Yeah.
So that Nate was a long time follower of Hike or Die. Started way back on Instagram, and it's progressed from there. We actually gave Nate a shade out, a shout out,
Shady.
a shade out. We flicked him a free hat, and he came back with some pretty cool feedback. I'm just going to quickly jump into my phone because it's easier to find it there. One of the funny things he said was, this is really funny, "I'm trying to learn your fun jargons and terms, and I'm trying to get that accent down as well."
Oh, yeah.
So I wrote back to him and said, "Oh, sorry, it's hard to know who understands what around the world." And he said, "No, it's all part of it. It's good fun." Something else he said was that he was really appreciative that we brought up the Big Ears National Monument
Oh, of course.
stuff.
Yeah, right.
And how much it kind of meant to him and other people he knows that push so hard to try and protect areas like that. I guess a lot of people weren't expecting a couple of idiots from Australia to have an opinion on that. But as I said in that podcast, and I will say again, anything that encroaches on any outdoor wilderness around the world is essentially affecting us all, because if we're not all protecting our own backyards, then it's not there for when people come to visit.
That's a big deal for sure.
There was, I want to say a quick shout out to a guy called Chris on Instagram. His handle is Midget, like midget. Get it?
Right. Yeah, I get it.
MIDGE-JET. He sent us a very kind Facebook message just out of the blue saying, "I stumbled across your podcast and I love it and keep up the great work."
Cool.
So thanks, mate. Those little things go a long way for us, because you just don't know what sort of appeal there is when you're starting out. Quickly move along to Miss Healthy Happy Lifestyle. Her real name is Olivia, and she has been supporting us for so long it's not funny. She was one of the original people who jumped on and followed us on Instagram. She's latched onto these podcasts, and she listens to them at work and gives me feedback. And it's great. We've always have appreciated your support, and so thanks again for getting in and putting a few downloads on the podcast as well.
Yeah,
it all helps. Good job. What else have we got here? Oh, something on YouTube. I told you about this one earlier. I don't know anything about this person except that their YouTube name is Screen Watching, one word. He said, "Good to hear /see an Australian podcast. There doesn't seem to be many around. I'd like to hear about long-distance solo bushwalks with an Australian focus. He goes on to give a bunch of topic ideas. Now, what I said to Craig earlier was, what's cool about that is we actually said to you guys, tell us what you want to hear. And this fella's just jumped in and said, okay,
I'll do that. Mm-hmm.
Here's what I want to hear.
Yeah, here it is.
He's got a couple of cool things, and even if we don't touch on them for an entire episode, they're definitely things that would work their way into
I reckon.
normal conversation.
Yeah.
Solar options for power-hungry devices while keeping your pack lightweight. I don't know if the two of those go hand in hand, but but it's definitely, we've learned a lot over the years.
Yeah, I've always been worried by that, balancing that for sure.
Yeah, and I think that even our mistakes are something that we've got to offer just to steer you guys in the right direction. So, excellent suggestion. Water management when a refill isn't going to happen for days. I've been in that situation. Multiple times.
Yep.
And it does take some planning and forethought.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go into that now, but that's an excellent idea. Physical preparation and handling stress on the body when out there.
Yeah.
We definitely covered a lot of preparation stuff in our fitness episode a little while back, but I can see what he means by that extra kind of level of when you're actually out there, how you're looking after yourself.
Sure.
And then he goes into edibles, like wild edibles. Now that is something that I don't have much experience with, so I'm not prepared to tell you which mushroom will put you back into your normal life.
Yes.
Or which one will take you into the matrix.
It is a roulette.
It is. And then some stuff about being off trail and the use of topographic maps and GPS. So excellent suggestions, mate. Thank you very much for taking the time to write that.
Yeah.
It's gone on the list, and we will most definitely have a crack at some of those in the future.
Yep.
All right. I feel like I need to refill my drink and take my jacket off, because I wasn't joking about that getting hot earlier.
Mate, it must be the spotlights.
It is. There's a lot of pressure on me right now.
Well, that's cool. Well, I'm pretty keen. I know now that you went on a bit of an adventure with some of your newfound friends, or friends from work, I assume.
Yeah, no, they're newfound hiking buddies, but they're long-term friends.
Long-term friends, gotcha. So I can't wait to hear a bit more about that, because I haven't seen any of the footage. So
I'm going to crack another ginger beer. Excuse me while I tend to that. I don't think it's going to be icy cold, and that's going to irritate me a bit. We had the forethought to eat... Oh, I hear that? We had the forethought to eat the salt and vinegar chips prior to starting the podcast.
So you guys didn't have to eat them along with us, but
you didn't have to hear us chew.
There's a couple left. I'm tempted, but I won't do it to you.
Okay. So I've given you heaps of background as to how the kind of concept of that hike came about, the hike with the girls.
Okay.
And why I eventually decided to kind of reach out to them and say, hey, look, I've got this idea. Do you want to come? Are you interested? And the response was absolutely fantastic, like super enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, maybe that's just a enthusiasm until it gets closer to the date and they realize that, it's going to happen. But no, I was wrong, proved wrong straight away. So we turned up, we had a meeting spot. We turned up we shuffled around in the cars a bit, and we took 2 cars to this particular hike because one car sits right up the top of this ridge, and you drive the other car down to, I guess, the bottom of a, what's the word for it? Valley, gorge, riverbed, whatever. Yeah, something like that. You park it down the other end, and then and you start from the top, and then by the time you get to the end, you've got the other car to drive back.
Yeah.
So it's all downhill, essentially.
Sure is.
And as it is downstream. Now, again, they were super enthusiastic, and I think I was saying this to you on the phone as well. There's a bit of a caveat, because you can take a lot of things I'm about to say out of context and say, well, you could say a whole bunch of things about them, really. It's not that I had any expectations. It's not that because I know, some girls that hike and they're absolute beasts, they just go out, do solo stuff and do, 18-kilometer days. Like, there's girls that somewhere along the line in there, as they've grown up, they've been exposed to that to a point where they're comfortable enough to explore it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a different type of person. And so I took these 4 girls, and do you remember that the first part of this hike is really steep? Like, it's going straight down into this gorge.
Yeah, my first question, was it wet? Was there any?
Yes, it had been raining the night before.
Yeah, right. It's pretty steep.
It's steep and slick, and it's like a red kind of a mud.
Yeah.
And what's even worse is some of the foliage falls onto the rainforest floor, and it falls on top of this slick red mud, and you think that it might be safer to step on the foliage, but that ends up skating out underneath your feet. And you can't always grab every tree going past either, because usually they've got those thorny vines growing around them.
Yeah, but you got to use the trees.
But you got to use the trees. I remember picking thorns out of our fingers the first time Craig and I
that's
did
right.
that hike.
Yeah.
And that was no different. I remember, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, a couple of days after we did the hike, I was at work and thinking, what's that pain in my finger, and ended up squeezing a little thorn out of my finger.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, that was pretty amusing. Like, they were laughing, and they just make a lot of noise. Girls make a lot of noise.
Right.
They're just laughing. They were straight into it. They were in hysterics, and they were all sliding over and falling on their backsides, and it was funny. And there was one point where I put in context, I've got really long legs. I've got pretty good hiking shoes. I know where to step, where not to step. And I went down on one knee at one particular time, and that information went up the chain pretty quickly. It was like, he's down. Yes, he went down. They were waiting for me to stack it.
Had a spill.
It was pretty funny. What I admired about that was they weren't taking themselves too seriously at all, and they weren't embarrassed to have a bit of fun. And yeah, truly, I'll probably say this 50 times, but I do commend them on how much commitment that first part of the hike is.
Yeah.
As I said, this will be the toughest part, and everything gets better after that. And the further we go on this hike, the more rewarding it gets, and that's exactly why I chose it.
Right.
And they trusted me. They trusted my judgment.
Did they spill a bit? Did they fall over?
Yeah, all the time, man. Yeah.
Kept falling over, yeah.
Oh, only on that steep stuff.
That's what I mean.
Like, not throughout the day. I think it kind of warmed them up. Something else I learned about girls, they have much shorter legs than me.
What are you saying, man? You know.
Something I didn't even contemplate was when I'm hiking along and I said, hey, just when you get to this log, the easiest way to get over this log is to actually step over it like it's a horse, and then take your other leg over.
Yeah.
And then take your other leg over. 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 And then take your other I did it and I kept walking probably about 10 meters, and then I stopped just to check back on how everyone's doing. And one of the girls had straddled this log, and she just turned around and said, "Now what?"
Now,
Both feet were off the ground by a solid foot each side, and she was just suspended up on this log. And again, not taking themselves too seriously. It was we had some really good laughs, and it certainly put me in my place, because I thought, okay, don't make assumptions that everybody's the same. And yeah, it was cool. There are other parts down that first steep bit where, and I would have done this no matter who it was, but there's some quite steep bits that if you fell, you might fall 15 foot or something. So not that far, but just enough to break an arm, break an ankle, or whatever, because it was on rocks.
yeah.
So in those parts, I'd kind of put myself in between the fall and where they needed to be. And of course, inevitably, they're the parts where there was bugger all to hold on to, or not many footholds. So we just worked across one at a time, and we all got through it. And I got in trouble for telling them not much further about 4 times.
Yeah. No, mate, look, I've got much shorter legs than you. I don't think it's just a girl thing. I think it makes a huge difference that you've got those long legs. It's put me out many a time.
I just forget about it. It's just because I grew up with them. So, sorry, I was trying to get comfortable here. I don't even think about it, but it was funny. It was funny. We had a good time, and we got down to that junction in the river, and I said, "Look, it's time to take a break." All of a sudden, it goes from this cliffy sort of steep terrain, which lots of palm trees in it, really weird kind of rainforest, and then you just pop out on this crystal clear stream, very idyllic, something that you'd see in a movie, absolutely gorgeous. And that's when they kind of went, "Oh wow, I see what hiking is.
Yeah.
This is awesome." Had we have had the car just around the corner at that point and gone and got in the car, I reckon they would have thought that was the best hike ever.
Yeah.
But that was a third of it. And as you know from that hike, it just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, sure does.
That's where I heard the word shiwi. Do you know what a shiwi is, Craig? You probably need to Google it, but I'd be very careful Googling it. Because it was our first pit stop.
I know where this is going.
Yeah. And I kind of said, okay, that's something I've never spoken about on our snack breaks. And they all just cracked up.
Right.
There was a bit of semi-awkward conversations there as I was politely trying to understand what the dynamics of such a thing. And then basically having them say that they wish that it was as easy for them as it was for guys. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. And I kind of thought, yeah, you're probably right.
We take that for granted.
Another thing, exactly. And I was thinking about it, whenever it's like number 2 time, whenever we're hiking,
Yeah.
I always think, man, I got to get that close to the ground. You want me to sit there for 5 minutes near those leeches and spiders and stuff? And as you say, yeah, totally take it for granted that we can just... this podcast has gone downhill.
Yeah, man, where are you taking us?
Into the abyss.
Yeah, well...
So, yeah, I'm just giving you a synopsis of
it's like
the
I was
interesting...
there.
These are the differences.
All right.
I've never spoken about a shiwi on any hike with you ever.
No.
I hiked with them for 1 hour Cat's out of the bag. It was good. It was good. Again, it was good to just have a laugh about that sort of thing. And from there, we kept trucking on downstream, which brings you closer and closer to deeper and deeper water. And I would argue that the terrain gets more and more beautiful as you move through the rainforest. And they took a whole bunch of pictures on their phone, videos and stuff. And there was a point there where I thought, wow, you guys and your enthusiasm is reminding me why I come out here, and to slow down to their pace. That's got nothing to do with them being female. They were inexperienced in the wilderness. It's tricky walking across rocks. I gave them a few pointers, and they really appreciated that sort of stuff. So we moved at a slower pace, and that's fine. I train for this stuff all the time, so I wasn't going to take off at my pace. But moving at their pace was really nice. It was cool to just look around and have a chat with one or two of them while someone else took some photos. And we literally had all day to get there. And the weather was fantastic. So that was a nice little reminder as well, is don't forget it's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, it's always nice to slow down a bit, eh?
Yeah, and it's whenever you take new people out that you realise why it is you started coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will remember that for a long time. As this particular hike progresses, it gets slightly more technical, especially when you get to points where you can't touch the bottom, and so in the stream you can't actually touch the bottom anymore, and there's no way to navigate around because the cliff walls become so sheer in the gorge. And that was cool. That's where it started to get pretty fun as well. And I don't think they stopped laughing for an hour through that section.
So you had
It was awesome.
waterproof pack.
I took that Trident, yeah.
Did the girls have
What
gear
I did
for it?
so what I did was I said, everyone bring a backpack that you don't mind getting completely saturated, and I will bring a whole bunch of dry bags.
Okay.
So I gave them a dry bag each
To put inside
depending
the bag.
on how big the stuff was that they had.
Yeah, cool.
And then they would have a dry bag inside their pack. So they were able to keep all their stuff dry.
Yeah.
I just had the dry pack because I had a camera and a few other little surprises up my sleeve, which I'll get to.
Right.
When we got to... So the water was a lot higher than when you and I were there both times. A lot higher. There's parts where we were walking on dry gravel when you and I were there.
Right.
And it was nearly knee deep when we were there.
What do you mean, like where we did the grail review and stuff like that?
There was no gravel.
There's no gravel there now?
No.
Like it's just deep water?
Yeah.
Right.
And, up above that,
Yeah.
you swim through the hole,
Yeah.
climb up the rocks.
Yeah.
Remember that bit?
Yeah.
That's knee deep. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's awesome. So it was
really flowing over.
Yeah, it was moving a bit.
Wow.
That's actually a point where I thought, okay.
Didn't expect that.
I was anticipating water.
Yeah. Because obviously that's
remember Mika that we met down there?
Yeah, yeah.
Remember he said that he's seen it with a lot more water, and it does kind of move through there a bit.
Yeah.
I kind of went, oh, yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, he did,
Yeah. Well, he just loves that place. He's a really cool guy to follow on Instagram as well. I'll chuck his Instagram in the show notes for you.
Yeah.
That's where we met him. And he goes back there a lot, and he photographs a lot of those kind of key things. Does a really great job too. But he dropped some photos about a week before I went. And so it was almost like a weather report. I could see the levels. And I thought, okay, at least I know what we're up against because I'm going to be there in a week's time.
Yeah.
And so I knew that there was going to be a bit of a waterfall thing going on because I saw it in one of his photos.
Yeah.
So thanks, Mika.
I think
appreciate that.
it was him who told us that there's this special time of day when the sun just comes straight down into that section, hits the water, and it clears up. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
He spends a lot of time there.
That little spot there. What is that? Is that called is that the gorge there, or is it
That
further
is the
on?
gorge. No, that is the gorge. Yeah,
where that waterfall is, and you got to climb in there.
Oh, I would suggest that it's as soon as those walls kind of go up to vertical, it's that whole long bit.
Yeah.
If you have a look on Google Earth and kind of zoom in, you can actually see the contours of the land all of a sudden just flip up to vertical.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yep, that's right.
So yeah, when we got there, I thought, okay, they knew they were going to get wet. They knew that. They knew there'd be a bit of swimming and everything. And I said, well, I might have to jump into a pool or whatever. But if you remember correctly, when we were there, we jumped in because it was fun to jump in, not because we had to.
Mm.
Right? We could have climbed down. But when I got there with these girls, you would have struggled to climb down safely because the water was pushing through between these two rocks.
Yeah.
So I got there and I thought, okay, this is interesting because it's quite a few hours if you want to turn around and go back the other way. And I said, I kind of quickly came up with a plan. And I said, everyone take your backpacks off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in and take my backpack down and put it on some of the rocks and swim back and then drag all their backpacks down so they're only worried about themselves jumping in.
Yep.
And that worked really well because they didn't have things to carry and hang on to and all that sort of stuff. And one by one they climbed up on the, I guess if you're standing down where we recorded that Grail footage and looking back towards the canyon.
To the left?
That's where we jumped off. So, but it was all slick, like real slippery, and had water and slime all down. You couldn't even touch it, man. It was so slick.
Right.
So on the right-hand side, there's a massive boulder with a flat spot at the front. So I climbed over that and jumped off the flat spot, and I knew where to jump because...
Isn't there a rock submerged
that's
on
right.
that side?
Yeah. So you have to jump over it and into the deep. And
right.
I jumped for... And all these things, you picked it up right then, all these things are adding up to, okay, this will take concentration and people are going to have to get it right.
Seriously couldn't jump from the other side?
No way, no. You wouldn't have even got a foothold on it because it was so slippery.
It was always slippery, yeah. I remember that. And
but there were dry bits. Remember, I almost slipped in.
We had good shoes. I had good shoes for that. What were the girls wearing?
Just runners, stuff like that.
Asics and stuff.
One girl had hiking boots.
Right.
Just runners, but yeah, even in my Merrills, I was struggling. Oh, admittedly, they've lost a bit of their tread because I've had them for a while, but. We had to jump from somewhere else. So I jumped in first and thought, okay, it's doable, but I'm going to need to be here. And what I did was I swam back to the spot where I jumped in, and then I stood on the rock.
Oh, did you?
I stood on the rock, and then it was pretty loud in there too. And then one at a time they got up, and I just said, "You see where I am? There's a rock. You only have to go like half a meter to the left of me, and you're in super deep water." So they could see the point where not to jump.
Yeah.
And then I jumped in the water and swam over to where I wanted them to jump in front of me.
Mm.
And one after the other, bang, bang, bang. They just, no fear, they smashed it.
No fear?
Oh, they said there was fear, but you wouldn't have picked it.
They just did it.
The first girl just got up and went bang, she did it quicker than me. Like, I stood for a couple of seconds, had a look around, psyched myself up. Now the last girl, was the last one? I think it was. Last or second last. She got up and then her confidence got the better of her, and you know that kind of you go to jump but then your knees drop out kind of thing. She did that a bit.
Yeah, lost it.
Yeah, and she just shook her head and kind of moved back, and I was like, okay, that's fair enough. Like, it's a big jump. And I said,
yeah,
it's all good. I'm going to find a way to climb back up, and I'll help you come down through the waterfall. And as I was kind of swimming towards her, you just saw her in her face. It was almost like she gave herself a slap across the face. And
Yeah.
you just saw her change, and she just shook her head again. And she's like, no, I'm doing this. And she just climbed back up, and I went, whoa, okay. And she just stood there for a couple of seconds, and then she just launched in, like, perfect, executed perfectly.
Oh, that's
and
good.
For me, that was such a massive turning point. Like, she's from the UK too, so she hasn't grown up around all this crazy stuff that we do. And
Yeah.
I thought that was a massive turning point. I honestly, at that point, I swam back to the shallower stuff where we were high-fiving, and everyone was stoked. Everyone was an epic high. And I just couldn't have been prouder of all of them for that. It was a fantastic effort. It was a fantastic effort for anybody.
Yeah.
Especially people that had never spent that much time outdoors like that. And I'm sure it was a first for them too. It was pretty cold. Water was pretty cold. And I was kind of fine because I was wearing the merino shirt and it was keeping me warm. But I could see them getting a bit cold. And so we kind of, I said, let's just get a move on. We'll spend another half an hour getting out of this bit. And then when we hit a nice sunny patch, as you know, there's some really cool sunny patches. When we hit a nice sunny patch with a bit of gravel and stuff, we'll set up and we'll have a proper lunch. Get everyone, you can get your gear dry, get other shirts on if you want, and just kind of like take our time. So we sat there for, maybe not an hour, but a long time. Just totally relaxing in the sun.
Sounds good.
Drying gear out, and just, they couldn't stop talking about jumping and all the stuff they'd done. Oh, we saw a little snake too.
Yeah?
Yeah, earlier on.
Right.
One of the girls videoed me walking up to, it was across the trail and it was just completely still. And it did not react at all as I moved closer. Its face was just slightly covered by a leaf, and I couldn't get an angle to check its eyes out or anything, so I didn't know. It was it was right in that borderline colour of juvenile brown snake or, weird olive green tree snake.
Yeah, gotcha.
The difference between one that would maybe hit you on the leg or scurry away, another one that would hit you and you'd be dead in an hour.
Sure.
So I just couldn't quite see its eyes, and I didn't know. So and plus they were behind me. I thought I'd just take a bit longer than normal just to try and also I thought it might have been dead. It just was not moving, dead still, and it had a massive lump in its guts. Right about the size of a mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I sat there looking at it, and then all of a sudden it just started moving again across the path. There was nothing wrong with it, but it moved slower. I think it was mid-digestion or something.
Did you see its face? What sort of snake was it?
Again, it just, for a split second, and then it was under, like, how they try and go under.
Yeah.
So it's not like it was going up over twigs. It was putting its head under this bunch of sticks and then under these leaves. And I still reckon it was probably just a tree snake.
Yeah.
But it was just, I just thought, let's just keep, because they were probably 2 meters behind me, the girls, and I just thought, let's just keep them back.
Yeah.
See what happens here. And yeah, it just trotted off. And we all moved on. But it was pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, we got this little, it turns out to be called a yellow-faced whip snake. Have you seen them?
Oh, yeah.
In the backyard here, and we were poking around at it, and then I've since read it's potentially dangerous, but I thought it was just a tree snake.
Yeah, right.
But kids can get bitten and really sick from it.
Yeah, right.
But it had an olive colour too, or kind of more like a caramelly olive colour. Yeah.
Do you remember that forward drive? Getting a bit off topic here, but it's on the snake topic. That's all good.
We could talk.
We did that forward drive trip, and we took Maddie up and Joel.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And I lost my license plate off the front.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I thought that it was when I was bulldozing down those little trees and the long grass, trying to flatten out that pad where we ended up setting up.
Where we camped.
Yeah, where we camped.
Right.
That, to me, that just made perfect sense. Oh, that's where it was, because I remember nudging a few little trees over, but didn't remember seeing the plate on the ground. I drove back there by myself one day to go check that area out and try and look for my license plate, because it's $65 to replace it.
Right.
I probably spent $200 in petrol.
Petrol to find it.
But hey, I had a day out. It was a nice day. Going back to the snake, I came around this corner just kind of cruising, and I had my window down, and this snake went across in front of me. It was absolutely insane colours. I've never ever seen anything like it in my entire life. I thought, that looks like someone's gone to Guatemala and grabbed a snake and brought it back and thrown it in the Australian bush. I got straight home, and I really would have loved to have I had my camera with me, would have loved to have got a shot, but he went across in front of the car, and so I kept kind of very slowly crawling past him as he went to the edge of the grass. And he stopped for a second. I got a really good look at him. And then he just kept moving, like he wasn't going to hang around.
Like a big python?
No. This thing was iridescent blue, like fluorescent blue.
Right.
And yellow. Was absolutely incredible. So bright. And I looked it up. I'm not going to guess what it was called, but I got straight home and thought, that is, I don't even know if that's an Australian snake. And I Googled it and ended up finding it, and it is. But to find that in, because that area is it's not far from where I grew up. And the sort of snakes we'd find when I was growing up were red-bellied black snakes, tree snakes, tiger snakes. That was about it.
Yeah.
And to see this thing so close to where I grew up, and it just blew my mind.
It's unreal.
Yeah. I'll have to dig up a picture on Google and show it to you, because it was, in fact, I just got to do it right now. While I'm doing that, though, I know we're on a bit of a tangent, but what I wanted to ask you was, going back to the girl hiking thing and a comment I made earlier about my assumption that at some point, these girls that I know who hike all the time, my assumption is that at some point they have had exposure to Like, I don't think they're a different breed or anything, or a different type of person. I just think they've had exposure to the outdoors earlier and maybe more gradually, and that has given them, I don't know, the confidence to kind of to do what they do. Now, you with 2 twin daughters, what's your thoughts on that? Like, how are you going to approach those sorts of, as they're growing up? I know they're nowhere near that, but you're already kind of taking them out in the outdoors, just easing them into it.
Yeah.
But what do you actually think about how you're going to do that, or are you just naturally incorporating them in what you do anyway? Have you consciously thought about that?
Yeah, heaps, because with Elliot, I've really consciously taken him exploring more than I know lots of my mates would, with when he was 2 and 3, carrying him basically to the top of some hills and mountains and stuff. So yeah, I've really pushed that with him. I think with the girls, I'm more inclined to just encourage their physicality, and they're actually very capable with their coordination and just skill set. That they're only 2.5, but as soon as they get ready, I'll take them on some hikes and some bushwalks. And I think it all comes down to family camping, if you ask me. That's where I feel my roots in being outdoors comes from.
Do you mean if you take them camping?
Camping, yeah, as much as I can. I think they kind of just develop their personal affinity with the outdoors through camping out of the house, A little bit of nighttime out of the house, if it's at all possible, makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We were talking about that on this hike, and I said, look, get a few of these under your belt, and the next steps to do the overnighter.
Yeah.
And stay out and experience how absolutely amazing it is at night. And one of the girls said, no, that's my worst fear, is being in the outdoors at night, lost. The only way it could get any worse is if there was zombies and vampires.
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
Like, they were just all like her worst fears wrapped up.
Yeah.
And it started with, why would I be outdoors at night? And I said to her, you don't need to do anything if you don't want to. My point was, once you have experienced being in the middle of a rainforest, for example, or the Australian bush or wherever, at night, maybe you've got a campfire, maybe you haven't. You know how special it is. Like that last podcast, I've had people come back and say, oh, it's just so immersive, that podcast. It was just like we was just sitting there with you.
Yeah.
And
bush sounds, open fires, tents. I think just being a long way from your home as well just gives you that respect for some sort of adventure, outdoor adventure. As far as skills for, climbing and hiking and gear and, buying them boots and stuff like that, I don't know. I think I'll probably just let that unfold a bit more naturally, but I'll just lead by example, I guess.
I think that's definitely the best. I think that's the best way. And this is from not knowing any better. I don't know. I've got nothing I haven't tested this, but it seems logical. It seems logical if you don't treat your son differently to them. If you don't take him on hikes and say, hey girls, I'm just taking him. It's going to be a tough one today, so you might want to sit out of this.
Yeah.
You know, and let's be clear though, there's a bit of an age difference. At the moment, when they're younger, that age difference is magnified. But as with my two older boys, that they got a 2-year age gap, and you wouldn't even know it.
True.
You would not know it. The way that they get around and do things together, it shortens that.
Yeah.
So in the next sort of 5 years or so, the gap between them, both physically and mentally, will reduce. And then that's where you get to a point where it's, if you're doing something with him, they can do it.
Yeah.
And I think just being inclusive, but also you're going to need to be tactful when they decide that they might not want to as well. And that's okay. That's cool. I think it's okay to go, and it's okay not to go. I listened to another podcast by Stephen Ranella. I think I've told you about him.
Yeah.
It's called the Meat Eater podcast, and he's got a son and a daughter now. His son's almost exactly the same age as my middle boy. Anyway, he talks about his daughter sometimes, and that she was kind of right into fishing, and then sometimes she'll just say, "Oh no, I just want to hang out with mum and whatever, or go shopping or whatever," and he kind of gets this little like twitch, but then says, no, that's cool. That's cool. You do that, but always know that you can jump back in at any time and come fishing with us, come camping with us.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty cool methodology, if for want of a better word, where you can kind of say, well, you guys can come and go as you please, but it's consistent. It's always there. I'm always going to do it. Maybe your son doesn't want to go one day and the two girls do, and that's cool. You're not going to come down on him for that, just as you won't come down on them for not going. But it's going to be interesting.
They're already missing out a bit because the Mac Pack koala pack that I used to carry him in doesn't fit two girls in.
You need to get the one on the front.
Well, the front's a double.
Well. Yeah.
I'll write them an email for a double or something.
Yeah.
Because it is hard to carry two up a hill, so...
it's hard to carry one. I carried my youngest up to the top of Gun, and that was pretty solid. Your arms know about it by the time you get there.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Good. Hey, I got that picture of the snake up.
Oh, that's it.
I know, man. But look what it's listed under. Common tree snake.
I wouldn't say there's
Bullshit.
much comment about that.
Bullshit. You're wrong.
And it's right next to yellow-faced whipsnake.
Yeah.
So
that is the most uncommon tree snake I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The common tree snake, often referred to as the green tree. No way, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. This guy knows what he's talking about on this website. But that just blew me away, because I would expect that's not... I've seen common tree snakes my whole life, and
it's almost like he's got the wrong picture there.
it almost is.
That's not a common tree snake.
I'm just clicking on more to see if there's something he's... Yeah, see that picture down there?
Yeah, that's a common tree snake.
Yeah.
That's a common tree snake. So, has he seriously got the wrong picture there?
No. I don't think that's the wrong picture. Or how else can we cross-check it?
Oh, I guess maybe it's just...
But
there's a few different, examples.
Yeah. Oh,
wow.
Geez, I don't think that's anything related. That's probably not even in this country. That picture right there, that is what I saw. And that's a bit that's got a bit of shine on it. But
yeah,
It was so rich and so blue and so yellow. I was a jaw-dropping moment. I actually almost slammed the brakes on and what is that? How cool though.
Yeah, you
I'd love to see one again.
Should have got out and played with that
Well,
thing.
yeah,
man.
because, you know, everything in nature says if it's freaking fluorescent blue and yellow, it can kill you. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like that to me
But
says...
it's non-venomous.
Yeah, that's right. That to me says, do not come near me because you will die in 4 seconds.
Yeah. You know how much that blue bottle hurt when you touched that? This is going to hurt more. But not venomous.
So I wish I had it jumped out now. The worst you can get from that is a little nip. Absolutely beautiful.
Cool.
So we've come full circle back
All right.
to where we started. Anyway, I think that was pretty cool to see the snake. They liked that.
Yeah.
And just to see wildlife in general, I think they were...
Did you see any other people there? Was it busy?
We didn't see people until we got all the way down to the gorge, what is essentially the main swimming hole. And then there was only sort of 8 people there, 2 different groups, and a few people further down. And then when we went past them, we didn't see anyone for ages again. When we pulled over and had our break for 45, 50 minutes or whatever, I think only 2 people walked past us.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool. It was real quiet because it looked like it was going to be raining that day, and I think it would have turned a few people off. A bit overcast.
Oh, cool.
Yes, we made our way out to the car from there, and got up to the car, and I heard a phrase I've never heard before or after a hike, and that was, "Do you have a hairbrush?" Get this though, that's not even the funny part. I said, "No, I don't have any use for it." And one of the girls said, "Oh, I just thought with that amount of hair that you've got, you might have a hairbrush."
Yeah.
Like it wasn't. I don't even think that was a joke.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know this, my hair's getting a bit out of control. It is getting long, but I still don't see a reason to have a hairbrush in my four-wheel drive.
No.
And then there was the burning eyes looking at me like I'm the shittest tour guide in the world. You didn't bring a hairbrush and you're taking 4 girls out. What kind of service is this? Even though
should have known.
the point I forgot to get to earlier was at the lunch break, I pulled out the little Optimus Crux camping stove.
Cool.
And as I was folding it out, one of the girls said, "What's that? What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, it wouldn't be a lunch break without tea or coffee, would it?" And that was just the icing on the cake. They thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And when I kind of think about it, I think, well, yeah, you wouldn't expect to go on that sort of adventure and have the opportunity to have a hot drink halfway through.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just boiled it up a few times, and I had all the other stuff in my bag, and I took 5 cups with me.
Thought of everything except the hair and beauty
Everything
products.
except the hairbrush.
Yeah, right.
And the shiwi.
The shiwi. You'd left yours at home.
Mine was left at home, so even I was having a tough time. Thank goodness for my ultra clinging bluey merino women's top. It kept me warm the whole day.
You girls would have had a great day by the sound of it.
We did. We had an absolutely fantastic time, and the momentum hasn't stopped. There was a little Facebook group there where we were organising it, and they're dropping their photos in there and their videos, and they're saying, "Take me back," and we got to do this again, and like that. 100% addicted, and I love that. And
Mm.
I remember being like that early on. And as I said back at the start of this podcast, if it can go full circle, and if that can attract, if they can build up their skills and confidence, and that can attract another group of their friends, and then that can attract another group of their friends, that's what it has to be about. It truly saddened me to hear that they didn't feel like they could get out in the outdoors. We talked about it a bit throughout the day, and so there's a couple more points. One of the things I said to him about it was in that first hour, in that really steep bit, and I said, look, I was about 3/4 of the way through that. I said, I don't know, I don't know how much to help you or not to help you. I don't want to feel like you think I don't think you can do this, but at the same time, it's just because you're new to hiking, and and one of the girls just turned around and just said, like, basically, you can't offend us. You can help as much as you want. And it was good to hear that as well, because I didn't want to seem like I was this doting parent, like being overprotective or assuming that they couldn't do a damn thing, because that's 100% wrong. They were smashing it. Like once they got their sea legs in the walking in the stream's quite difficult. But once you get the hang of it and know where to step and where not to step, like they just started picking up the pace and did a fantastic job. And so I kind of quizzed them a bit about, also at lunchtime, about why they can't do something like this, or what's stopped them. And one of the girls said that they have been outdoors before with guys, but there's a couple of different types of guys. There's the ones that just say, hey, yeah, let's come out hiking, I know this spot, and then they just take off ahead so fast that she couldn't even keep up. And she said, well, what's the point of that? What's the point of you moving at your pace and not being accommodating of somebody who's new to hiking? I think there's probably also, and she did mention this, there's also that kind of other type of guy, which is a little bit, I don't know, show pony, kind of, pretty showboating, and kind of go, that was what they said. Like people who say, I know about hiking, as a guy, because they think they feel like they should know about the outdoors. So then they end up in the outdoors with somebody who's basically just talking shit, talking themselves up. I know how to, don't have the gear, don't know what they're doing, haven't planned it. And so I can kind of, when they explained that, I thought, I could really see that happening. And I could see an egotistical idiot male basically jumping at the chance to show off and say, well, I'll climb that mountain. Yeah, let's do it. I'll take you to climb that mountain. And then they're inevitably the people that get themselves into trouble, and the girls have a bad experience because they think, well, it's this sucks because I'm not fast enough or fit enough, or I can't climb that sheer rock face on my first try without ropes. These sort of things that make them think that that's how they have to be. That's not going to bring you back. That's not going to make you do it again.
No, I guess they tell stories of getting roped in to things, perhaps with guys. There's lots of girl leaders out there they should be tagging along with too, So I guess that's where they need to set their sights, or some decent guys who won't lead them astray.
Yeah, that's right. And there's one, what's it called? There was another follower follower of ours on Instagram. I actually did send her a message to see if she wanted to tag along, but because I knew she was quite experienced hiker and outdoors sort of person, I thought it'd be nice if there was a representative from a girl there that knew what she was doing, and they could kind of go, oh wow, it's not just Tom, like it's not just because Tom's a guy that makes him good at hiking, which is total crap. Girls can do it too, and they could kind of see that. But anyway, I gave her really late notice, and she was actually hiking somewhere else. She was actually hiking, taking a group through up at Kalula where we did that 3-day canoe trip.
All right. Yeah, nice.
So, she wrote back the next day and said, "Oh, sorry, I was actually doing another trip." But she's her Instagram name, and I think we should definitely think about getting her on as a guest to kind of take this topic further. I really like her Instagram name, actually. It's Roll Away Your Stone, all one word. And she does this thing, where is it? It's called... she did tell me about it. Look, I'm gonna say the wrong thing here because I haven't done my research. She does this thing... She has this website called Rewilding or something like that, and it's specifically about introducing women into the outdoors, and I guess making it, as we were saying, a safe experience and a good experience, but one that they can kind of share with a female guide, I guess. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find... Yeah, I didn't plan on actually going into detail of this, so I haven't got my websites and everything ready. Look, I will try and find it for you, and I'll put it in the show notes. But I just wanted to... Her name's Jessica. I just wanted to mention her because she's, I think, very close to that type of person we were talking about. And the fact that we kind of had a few messages going back and forth, her and I, after the event. And I said it was just really cool how much the girls got into it and they were enthusiastic, and I was just so immensely proud. And she said, oh yeah, I do this thing where I introduce girls back into the wild. And I thought, wasn't that interesting that she sees an opportunity for that as well? Even being a girl herself, she sees, well, not enough girls are getting in the outdoors. I just thought that was interesting because, we had a great chat after I was telling her about the hike.
Awesome.
Yeah. Look, you've been with us for a long time. I don't have any more notes. And we should probably let you go. Do you have anything to add, mate? Any closing thoughts?
No. I think it's probably time to wrap it up. It's been interesting little chat there. I like that. And I think we've just touched on a lot of things that we should add into new podcasts. Some of those ideas we've brought up before. Yeah,
there's absolutely avenues there to expand on some of that stuff.
I'm excited to get back into this chair and chat with you again.
Yeah, look, it won't be long. A funny story I was going to share with you just before we go is I tried to get a couple of different guests on this week, and I realised that probably it's very stupid of me to assume that I'm going to be able to get adventuring people to join the podcast on the weekend, because every single person I asked, one guy, a photographer, he's a top bloke. He's dead keen to come on, like really keen to come on. He's had photographs published in Australian Geographic. He's a top bloke. I texted him and he said, "Oh, I'm actually on a road trip, climbing mountains." I said, "That's okay. Do you want to call in to the show on Saturday night?" And he said, I'll be on top of a mountain. I don't think I'll have reception. I went, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I spoke to another guy, and he said, oh, we're out camping that weekend. Okay, probably won't have reception.
Mm-hmm.
And then I spoke to another couple, and they said, we're working all day doing some guiding or something, and we're going to be so tired on Saturday night. So, yeah, apologies. The guests are there. They want to come on. They legitimately want to go. They're lining up. There's people that want to come on and tell you cool stuff.
They just say midweek, please.
Yeah, they're just asking for a midweek podcast.
Please.
So we're going to have to recalibrate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the other funny thing I was going to tell you, just to leave you with a thought that maybe all is not lost with humankind. I was on the train and I saw a guy with the same hiking shoes as us getting off the train at the same stop as me. And I have seen him before, I just never noticed his shoes. And we're waiting there for the train to pull up. This is on my commute home. And I said, nice shoes, mate. And he kind of looked down at mine and he laughed and he went, yeah, I love them. They're so good. And as we got off the train, we were chatting and just talking about how we use the shoes and stuff like that. And so anyway, we parted ways, and a couple of days later, I saw him getting off the train and gave him a wave. And it was this week. He happened to be on my carriage again, and we got off and we were talking, and I said, I saw there's a special on this website for some gear, you know, if you're looking for a new pair of shoes or whatever. And we started talking, and he said, have you heard of Wild magazine, which is why I've got that copy right here tonight. And I said, I think I've heard of it. I think I've seen it.
Yeah,
and so he pulls this magazine out and
so good.
He shows me and I start flicking through it. And he says, I don't know this guy. And he says, why don't you take it home and have a read of it and just give it back to me on the train sometime. And I just thought that was incredibly generous.
Yeah, sure.
And it just kind of blew me away. I got home and said, look at this magazine. This guy just gave it to me to borrow.
Not only that, it's awesome.
Oh, not only that, it's awesome. Yeah, it's an epic magazine. And then I thought, there's another example of hiking bringing people together.
Absolutely.
Because it was the shoes that we both recognised, and straight away that pre-qualified us to be more aligned than, do you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to wear those shoes, they're very specific. So you must have something in common. And then he hands me this epic magazine. Now, here's how it gets even creepier and cooler, right?
Of course.
You think that's good, right? I'm reading this magazine. I get about 3 articles in. I've been reading it back and forth on the train, taking my time, not rushing it. I get to this article about white.
And it says, I love you, Tom.
And there's all notes in there, and there's photos of me. No, I'm just kidding. There's lipstick and everything. I'm watching you. So, yeah, anyway, you picked it.
Sure.
I get to this article on white water rafting. That's what I was trying to say. So,
right. Yep.
And I'm reading this article going, wow, this is a cool article. These people are cool. They're awesome. I love this. What a cool article. Every time I get to the end of an article, I read who's written it.
Yeah.
I get to the end of this article and I read the names and I'm like, geez, that sounds familiar. And then I read the name of their blog. I went, get out of town. I met the couple who wrote the article in this magazine that this stranger gave me on the train 3 years ago in Tasmania, hiking on a 100-kilometre trail in the middle of nowhere. I met this couple that wrote this article.
You were meant to read that, man.
I know. And so I said, they're the ones that were too tired to come on because they worked all day. I said, you've got to come on the show,
Oh,
man.
wow. Oh, that's spooky.
So I sent them a message on Facebook, and they're like, oh, don't worry, we will come on the show. They're incredible. They've got an awesome blog. And Kaz and Chrissy are their names, and they take fantastic photos and everything. But how incredible is that? That it just blew my mind.
Right.
First of all, getting the magazine, and then discovering that was them. It's a story for another time, but I got to this hut in the middle of nowhere. It was freezing cold. I was a bit wet from rain and stuff, and I opened the door, and I'm absolutely freezing cold. And this couple sitting in there, and they've already got the fire going. And they were so welcoming, and we sat there and had a coffee together and talked and talked and talked. And then we caught up again the next night at the next hut. But that was them. Absolutely freaky, hey?
Freaky circle, man. That's
so cool.
Yeah, very cool. No, I saw that sitting there. I thought, because I used to basically get that every...
Is it quarterly or something?
2 monthly, because...
Okay.
Every month I'd go and no, and then yes, and then no, and yes, because I used to get some magazines for the clinic and stuff. So, yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
I'll tell you one more funny story. That wasn't a funny story. That was an epic story that you can tell your friends.
Yeah, right.
When I left the hut the next morning, I said to them, and I think we either overtook each other during that day. The next day, we were going to the same campsite. And I said, are you going to stay in the next hut? And they said, yeah, we'll stay in the hut. I get to the next hut late in the afternoon, and I can hear people inside. The fire's on. I can see the chimney going, and there's people laughing inside. And I thought, oh, they're already here. This is hilarious. I am so funny. I was already laughing before I did it. I thought, they're just going to love this. They're going to absolutely think I am the funniest guy in the world. I walk up to the front door, this old rickety wooden door, and I just go, with my fist, I just go, bang, bang, bang. Who goes there? Just screamed it through the door, and all this talk and laughter just stops dead.
Yeah.
And then I just start pissing myself laughing, and I open the door. They were not in there, and the 4 people in there I had never met, and they were all backpackers from overseas.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about that story, man.
Then I'm there trying to explain to them who can't really understand English how hilarious it is because, my friends are meant to be here. They were going to be here, and I said I was coming, and then it was a joke.
And I know I'm on my own, and this looks really weird.
I'm by myself, and I thought it was cool to smash on your door and scare the living shit out of you. Man, I'll never live that. And it was literally 10 minutes later, I ran into Kaz and Chrissy, and they're like, oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, no, we didn't bother staying in there. It was a bit crowded, so we just pitched the tent over here. And I'm like, yeah, it would have been cool if you told me that, because I walked straight past your tent and just smashed the door down.
No, not cool.
On that note, thank you for your valuable time. I hope you've enjoyed some of this. Get out and keep on hiking. And thanks for all your feedback. Thanks for your support.
See you later, guys. Bye.
See ya. Bye. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, we'd really appreciate your ratings and comments if you can spare the time. If you'd like to know more about Hike or Die TV and keep track of our adventures around Australia, make sure you drop by HikeordieTV.com. That's where you'll find all the information you'll need to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram or Pinterest. As always, we appreciate your support. Thanks for listening.